Please welcome Executive Vice President and General Manager, Splunk, Gary Steele.
It is great to be back at the RSA conference again, and hopefully we'll have some fun. I've been with Splunk a couple years now, and recently we announced that we joined forces with Cisco. I'm super excited about that. I'm super excited about the potential of what our two companies can do together and the benefits that we can deliver to security practitioners. Prior to that, I led Proofpoint for over 20 years. I'd been working on a lot of hard cybersecurity problems. And one of the things I'm excited about today is to talk about rethinking the SOC and how we revolutionize it. When we look at a lot of security operations, they're oftentimes frozen in time. And before we dive into what the SOC can really look like, we need to level set on what does the threat landscape look like today. And honestly, if you go back a year and you think about, did we make progress over the last 12 months? And I would say that threat actors continue to have the advantage, unfortunately. There's a lot of factors. You've heard about it over the course of RSA, but we all have a bigger attack surface as digital footprints have grown. You've got a really complex geopolitical environment with elections around the globe in many countries around the globe. And you've got a broad range of issues from insider threat as well as threats coming from the outside. And then all of that overlaid with the regulatory environment that we're dealing with different privacy rules around the globe, making our lives that much more complicated. It was interesting, there was a recent study done that showed roughly 3/4 of respondents said that they felt like they were likely to have some sort of cyber incident in the next 2 years. That just demonstrates a lack of confidence. And I think we can fundamentally make progress on this, though. At the end of the day, key to actually making progress on security is having visibility. It's absolutely crucial. Because you clearly can't secure what you can't see. What does a security operation do? They need to be able to detect threats quickly before they impact the organization. Now, when we think about security, we think of it as truly a data problem. And there's a lot below the surface. You've got a lot of data sources today, and George outlined some of the challenges with those. There's an incredible volume of data when you think about threats that can come in across your network where you'll see lateral movement. You've got all your endpoint data. You've got your cloud data. You have device data. And you have everything in those OT environments with new devices coming online every day. Now, one of the challenges is that this volume of data can become insurmountable. But there are real answers to these problems today, answers that can fundamentally change the way we've thought about security operations. So what does good security look like? It's really about pulling context across the org and the ability to quickly isolate signal from noise and making sure you really have what you need. Can you see all the right data? Are you getting the right detections? Are you driving the right analytics? Can you manage it efficiently? And can you do it without breaking the bank? At the end of the day, security operations must detect threats at scale across complex data environments and do it sustainably. And that problem statement has grown over the last several years. It's harder than ever to do this. And one of the big issues today is it's really fragmented. Think about the environment that we have. You've got data privacy regulations that are forcing organizations to leave data in certain geographies. You've got data gravity. These data files are large. Think about your NetFlow files. They're huge. And we know we can't just easily ship those around. Most customers I talk to have multiple clouds, whether they wanted that or not. They also still have an on-premise footprint where they have critical data that they must protect. And then coupled with that, you've got the security industry has grown up where everyone has multiple point solutions doing really good detections, but it's really hard to see across all of those different point solutions. Today, when we look at, on average, analysts in the SOC have up to 25 tools that they're using to try to understand what's going on, to try to drive the right outcomes. And then finally, you're seeing a broader set of participation in managing this data. IT organizations want data so they can keep systems up and running. They're using it to drive application uptime. And all of these silos, teams, and tools oftentimes can create chaos. So as we think about the historic SOC, we really need to break down the walls. And you need to think about a whole new world that looks very different from where we've been in the past. And coming from having run one of the leading log aggregation companies, we think that model of centralizing everything is fundamentally gone. And what we do see as the model, though, is data is critical, and we need to move analytics to the data versus moving data to the analytics. And that's a fundamental different view, moving from centralized, where we've been, to highly distributed. And the future Security Operations Center must handle all data at machine speed and scale, wherever that data is. And that unlocks a tremendous amount of potential and allows you to bend time and drive the right kinds of detections and outcomes that security operations centers have always wanted. So we think of the future of the SOC as having three fundamental pillars. The first is a single platform for analysts to do threat detection, investigation, and response. Automation delivered through AI so analysts can focus on the things that are really meaningful and all the noise goes away. And then third, federation, meaning you can get access to data wherever that data lives. Again, moving the analytics close to the data versus the reverse. So let's talk about each of these individually. So the first pillar, you really need to have a single integrated environment that delivers context, insights, and AI-delivered action, not a plethora of tools. You end up with fewer tools tightly integrated into an open and extensible environment. And the center of the SOC becomes that place where you get insights and you can rapidly take action. And we also believe that a lot of the nomenclature that we've lived with in the past with these product categories begins to fundamentally change. What the industry has traditionally thought of as SIEM and what the industry has traditionally thought of XDR, we believe there's convergence there. You get the benefits of that rich analytics that you often have had with SIEM environments, with the benefits and rich detections that have come from the advances in XDR. Wrapping all that in automation delivered through the advancements in AI. And it's a fundamental change from where we are today. Now, the second pillar really is driving automation delivered through AI so that analysts can focus on what really matters. And I would suggest that analysts are more important than ever. Is the analyst job going away? No, absolutely not. But let's get rid of the noise. Let's get folks focused on really being defenders and elevating the role of the analyst in the SOC. More important, driving human ingenuity that ultimately delivers the innovation and decision-making that's critical in a world where threats continue to be complex. You know, there's been lots of discussion. You could come to many RSAs and you would have heard about, quote, the autonomous SOC. Are we ever going to have an autonomous SOC? I would suggest no. I think there's always an expert in the driver's seat. But the work that that expert is doing is really critical and really thoughtful, being aided all the way through that journey with AI. And you will see leveraging AI where you can let AI do alert triage, case management, incident response, incident summaries, vulnerability management, coordination of workflows across tools, across teams. And so just streamlining the traditional work that has happened in the Security Operations Center. We think of AI as integral in how people work, but you need a human in the loop. We don't think that organizations are just going to let AI just randomly take users offline and reconfigure networks. We don't believe that'll happen. But we do believe that AI can really be materially instrumental in driving productivity for analysts in the SOC, getting insights across security applications where that's really hard today, driving correlations and anomalies, finding root cause, recommending action, simplifying what it takes to make the next decision and drive the outcomes. And then embedding AI directly into workflows so that it's easy to write correlations, get summaries, drive the overall workflows and investigation. And so it's moving that analyst to higher value things, making it much simpler to get their job done. Also important to this is context and domain-specific leverage of AI, where over time, the training of that AI really understands how your organization works, and you're getting benefit from that continual training. And an environment that's open and extensible, so you can continue to leverage a broad set of AI tools to always have state-of-the-art to advance what that analyst is doing every day. Now, the third pillar, which I think is probably one of the most important pillars, which is the future really is federated. And what does that mean? The ideal SOC should be able to look across the broad enterprise and get access to data wherever it may live. Think about your environment today, multiple clouds, on-premise systems, being able to look across that and be able to drive analytics and help drive detections that are critical in a world where you're fighting world-class actors. And it really gives the foundation for the visibility that you ultimately need to be able to elevate our defense capabilities. And you ultimately can do more with your data sooner. Now, one of the challenges, obviously, is data's coming from everywhere. But the power of pre-processing where that data lives to be able to drive immediate detections or insights or alerts directly from that data. So again, moving analytics to the edge where the data is can unlock a tremendous amount of power. And we fundamentally believe that this concept of federated analytics really unlocks a tremendous amount of power. And you're not then burdened with thinking about how do I move all these big data sets around to get the outcomes that I want. You're focused on getting the outcomes from the data because you've moved the analytics directly to where the data lives. And this really unlocks a tremendous amount of potential. It also helps you think about the economics, because as we all know, this is expensive. So think about the opportunity to store data in low-cost storage locations. Think about your retention and where you want to retain data. You can make those decisions on your own. The state of technology today can allow you to drive analytics to the edge and drive analytics directly to where data is, unlocking a tremendous amount of power. So, there's clearly, we have a lot to do to realize this vision because threats continue to evolve. But the reality is we are showing progress. We're trending in the right direction. We did a recent survey, and responders said that they're feeling better about keeping up with security requirements. And it's trending positively over the past several years. And we also, in the same study, looked at how is cooperation happening between the security teams and the IT teams. And we're seeing really good progression there. Nearly 3/4 of respondents said that they're collaborating more closely with their colleagues in IT operations. And this increased from roughly half last year. So there's progress being made. But while we're talking about the future, it's important to think more broadly and think about what's really possible. When I spend time with customers, one of the themes that I hear continually is this concept of digital resilience. What's that really mean? It really just means protecting a business from threats and various forms of outages. And those outages could be anything. Ensuring the systems are up and running and that you can withstand various forms of shocks. And if there is something that happens, you can bounce back faster. In the world we live in, if there's an event in the middle of the night, security team gets called in, DevOps and the IT operations team get called in, no one really knows what it is at the beginning. And untangling what is the root cause that's driving this potential outage is the challenge that organizations have. Security has made tremendous progress in driving digital resilience, but it can extend much more broadly. one of the things that we see is there's much more cooperation because the data that you need to make these decisions, is it a cyber issue? Is it an application issue? Oftentimes it's the same data. And building a seamless experience across security, but also across IT, DevOps, the application teams, allows you one platform that helps you think through when there's an issue, what actually happened. The power of that one common data set is immense. What do you get from this? You ultimately save a lot of money. And you can drive down detection times, simplify investigations, and make it easier to respond. And ultimately, what this does, it really unlocks the power of innovation and the value that you can deliver to the customer through a much improved customer experience. Now, digital resilience is really built on this core idea of visibility. If you can see across your environment and see from the perspective of the defender, understanding what's going on from a threat point of view, but also being able to look across that vast environment and understanding what's going on with your network, with your applications, with everything running across your environment, you unlock a whole different kind of opportunity. An opportunity that really drives uptime in a fundamental and material way. And the exciting thing for me is that the SOC of the future really is the blueprint for how leading organizations will connect and protect their digital footprint. And we are in a position today to be the leaders in helping our organizations drive digital resilience broadly for the organization. And what that really unlocks is the power of more profitability, better customer experience, a more competitive environment, all those things. And I'm personally excited about what the future holds, and I'm personally on a mission to make what we talked about today a reality for all of you. So thank you very much.